My name's Emma Fitzpatrick and I'm the Visiting Students Coordinator here in Queen's University Belfast. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to run through, Philip is going to run through the slides with the information for the 2024 summer school. We can take questions throughout or we can take them at the end. It's really up to you, Philip, how you want to run the session. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I'll keep an eye on the chat and we can have a look at the questions as we go, and I can call them out if need be. If anybody wants to verbally ask a question, you can always raise your hand and we can ask you to verbally ask. You can come on camera if you'd like to. We are recording the session. So if you do come on camera, just make note that your camera then will be on the website with obviously the image of you and your question, because we want to share this with other study abroad coordinators or academic staff members that maybe couldn't make it today. But without further ado, Philip, I will hand over to you and I'll shut off here, but I'll be in the background.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Emma. So hi, everyone. I am Professor Philip McGowan. I am Associate Dean of Internationalisation in the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences here at Queen's University Belfast. I'm also the International Summer School Coordinator. So I'm going to go through a number of slides, some kind of general ones about Queen's and Belfast, and then more specific information about the 2024 summer school. So I don't know how familiar with Queen's you may or may not be, but we are one of the leading research universities in the United Kingdom in the Russell Group of 24 leading research intensive institutions. We are ranked 17th in the world for our international outlook. And we're quite old. We're the 9th oldest university in the United Kingdom. We also take some very pretty pictures of our campus. There's another one. In numbers, we've got about 25,000 students, and at the last count, we had over 4,000 students from 80 countries around the world. And that's one of the things that in the last decade we've really striven to improve is our international student community as well as international staff community. In terms of staff, across the three faculties, we have 3,500 or so. And from North America, we have over 300 students each year coming to Queen's to study with us, whether at undergraduate or postgraduate levels. And usually, give or take, up to this point, we take about 100 North American or USA study abroad students into our programs here in AHSS. Belfast, again, I don't know how many of you have been, but it is a very affordable city in terms of this island, the island of Ireland, as well as the neighbouring island, Britain. So if you're comparing costs with Dublin or London or Edinburgh or Glasgow, we are very, very favourably comparable with those cities, much cheaper, particularly than Dublin. We are an increasingly popular tourist destination, as well as a destination for various quite famous worldwide TV and film phenomena like Game of Thrones. Obviously, a lot of that having been filmed here. The Causeway Coast, which is something your study abroad or your summer school students will be able to take advantage of, is one of our main attractions. I guess we have a picture of it somewhere. We're a very safe city, and we have one of the fastest growing tech economies, certainly in the UK, as well as on the island of Ireland. Please stop me at any point should you wish to intervene. Otherwise, geographically, we are on the island of Ireland. Politically, we're part of the UK. Economically, we're not quite. It's kind of a bit muddy because of Brexit. We are economically part of the UK, but now we're also economically part of the European Union due to our special status given the open border on the island of Ireland. And that is something that we will be engaging your students with, that idea of the changes to the, I suppose, the politics, the culture and the societies on our island, and how that has been infected and affected by Brexit. Culturally, we are a blend of both. So you will get a very strong sense of Irish identity, as well as a kind of key sense that you are in a British or UK city. A lot of the architecture here in Belfast is very similar to what you'd get in a Northern English city like Manchester or Liverpool. As a population, we're not huge, only 1.8 million in the whole of the north of Ireland. Greater Belfast as a city is less than 1 million, is rising, but not that fast. We're very reachable, whether you're going over the border into the south, it's about 90 minutes on the train to Dublin, or the way I drive, about 75. And it's about an hour's flight to London, and less if you're going to Glasgow. It's like, you may as well just get a catapult and fire you over the water to Glasgow. So it is a great destination to come to, as well as one to get to other places from. So what can your students expect when they come here? We will be introducing them to the university, the city, and to Northern Ireland. We'll give them a sense of what life is like here in Belfast, and we will hope, obviously, to be developing their knowledge and skills and connecting them with other students from institutions from across the world, but specifically from the United States of America. What we've done in recent years, this year, for example, we're relaunching our summer school after the pandemic has passed, when we didn't run it for a couple of years. We're allowing students to basically build their own program. All of the students take a common first week, and then after that, as I'll show you in a while, they will take separate weeks or separate choices of weeks for what where their interests lie. Generally, each week will consist of 4 days of in-class instruction, though that might vary depending on the strand of the summer school that the student takes. And then there's field trips. I'll say a little bit more about these as we go. And you know, these are really great opportunities for our students. And I think one of the things that a lot of the feedback that we read about our summer school tells us is that students who come to this Queen's Summer School, they make friends for life, but they're also very keen on the idea of coming back to study in Belfast, to study at Queen's in the future, we hope. So the specific summer school information that you're all here for, it's a 3-week summer school that will run from Monday the 17th of June in 2024 to Friday the 5th of July. As I said, the first week comprises of a common core week, and that's taken by every student on the program. And then after that, we have 4 options of strands that students will take for weeks 2 and 3. There's a happy bunch of students. So week 1, this is where we introduce you to the university and the city. And the title of the first week is Belfast Culture, Identity, History and Politics. And we have a lot of all 4 of those. If you're familiar with Queen's or Belfast, you will know this. We introduce the students to their accommodation on Monday the 17th of June, and there will be some free time on that day after the initial registration has taken place. And then we begin with an introduction to the summer school on the Tuesday and to the history of this university, which was founded in 1845. We have a tour of the campus and then a lunch and a kind of easy enough Irish studies quiz just to get everyone talking to each other. And then we take an academic tour of Belfast, looking at the city, looking at the murals in different parts of the city, and just explaining to your students some of the history, some of the intersections about where Belfast has come from and where it is now in 2024, as it will be next year. The next days, we look at, ambitiously, 3,000 years of Irish history in 1 hour. We look at Belfast in its context as a city on the island of Ireland, as well as a city that is politically within the United Kingdom. We marked the centenary of the partition of the island in 2021. And that is an open question, I think, certainly since Brexit, and a very interesting question about citizenship, identity, trade, borders, and our connections with and allegiances with various cultural and social or political positions. You'll see we'll also build in quite a few activities and free time and evening receptions as we go. We look at the politics and history of Northern Ireland, and on the Thursday, position that in relation to the question of Brexit and the Union and the European Union. On the Friday, There is a discussion of where the Northern Irish economy sits now. We are, as I mentioned earlier, a hub for creative endeavor, as well as for tech and digital transformations of our communities and of our filmmaking and musical compositions and creativity. So that's going to be a focus on the Friday before the Saturday day trip, which is optional, but we always suggest that people take it to the city of Derry or stroke Londonderry, because it's so good it was named twice, really is the lie I will tell on that one. Derry is a very historic city up on the north coast, has ancient city walls, has a lot of cultural and heritage sites that students will find fascinating. And our colleagues will be taking people around the city walls and around the museums, showing them different points of view of how that city has come to be the city it is now. And then we move into the building your own experience possibilities. And we offer 4 2-week strands in the 2024 summer school. First is in Irish Studies. We've had a long-standing and very, very well-regarded Irish Studies summer school here at Queen's, and it is relaunching next summer. And it will be a combination of politics and history, literature and culture from this island and where it is now situating itself in the 21st century. A second strand is on leadership in the community, whether that's business leadership and entrepreneurship, or whether it's engaging with local NGOs or charities or local organizations, and how they position themselves, again, in this place, which is slightly different from any other city on this island or on the next island in Britain. There's only one Belfast or one Derry. They're very different from Dublin, they're very different from London or Oxford or Leeds or Manchester. So that's kind of the focus of where that module or strand would be taking you. A third one, this year, this is slightly different. It's 2 separate bits, which is on political extremism and also the psychology of conflict and peace. But we brought those together for 2024, and we're looking at identity and intergroup relations in divided societies. So some of the questions about the psychological makeup of a social of a society or of a social construction of identity is underpinning this strand that will look at what happens after conflict. One of the things that I think Queen's University is primed to do is to talk about and investigate and research questions of identity and citizenship during and after conflict. So that's the big focus of that strand. And then the last one is a story which I invented a number of years ago, and it never ran because of the pandemic. And story is for students who are more creative, who are interested in creating or composing something. It might be musical, it might be a short film, it might be prose narrative, it might be a podcast or some sort of digital output that allows them to engage with our creative practitioners, as well as our technological and technical staff who can help them with artificial intelligence, digital immersive training, or some of the more sort of nuts and bolty things of musical composition, for example. So those are the 4 strands. Fees and entry requirements. Let me just check the chat while I saw the little red thing up there. Okay, nothing. Grand. So the summer school fee for 2024 will be £2,750. This includes all of the tuition, ensuite accommodation, some meals, welcome and farewell meals, the field trips to Derry or wherever your strand may take you in the weeks 2 and 3, off-peak gym membership in the physical education centre, as well as a library access. There's a 10% discount for groups over 10 people. So there's a summer school email address there, summerschools@qub.ac.uk. We're obviously going to send this link to this webinar out, and all of the information will be available to you there. So don't be worrying about scribbling stuff down at this point. The Fulbright Scholarship. So this year, 2023, and next, we will be hosting 5 students the chance to come on a Fulbright scholarship to take the summer school. The scholarship includes return airfare from the US, all the tuition and fees, all the field trips, accommodation, and a daily allowance for meals. It's also a really amazing thing for students to put on their CV. And I was really privileged. Back in April, I think it was, I had the interviews on Teams with the candidates for Fulbright for this year. And it was amazing to hear their stories, to think about how they would contribute to the summer school and what they bring from their various backgrounds across the United States. So again, this is something we definitely would be keen on our partners promoting to their students as we move into the 2024 summer school. Here's the accommodation. Here's a picture of the room. That's from BT2, and that is accommodation that it's really new. It's about 3 or 4 years old at this stage. And they are all private with ensuite, and the fees that you would be paying, the students would be paying, include all the bills, Wi-Fi, internet, bed linen and towels. There's a communal kitchen and a common room with a TV, and it's secure. It's 24-hour safety. There's a reception open 8 to 8, and then after that, there's an on-call support officer. This is our library at the back of our campus here in Belfast. I don't know how many of you have been to Belfast, but it's extraordinarily walkable or cyclable. So from BT2 to walk back up to the Maclay or to the main building, you know, you'd be really pushing it to make it last 20 minutes, let alone 15, I think, but I walk fast. So this will be where the students will be doing some of the research and studying while they're here on the summer school, and will have access to the library, obviously. That's our physical education centre, where they get the free gym membership for their stay here with us. And it's got all the usual things like a swimming pool and squash courts and weights rooms and climbing walls and all the things that I wouldn't ever think about doing, but there you go. The big thing that we've done in the last year, this academic year, is open our new student centre, which is called One Elmwood. And it houses all of our student support services, our international student support services, our financial services, our students' union bar, and cafes and restaurants. So I'm going to show you some pictures. It is quite stunning. It looks from the outside a bit like, if you remember Star Trek: The Next Generation, it looks like the Borg ship, big black cube. But it's quite stunning. And everything's in there. It's a one-stop shop for all student needs, whether it's, you know, a can of soda or some sort of advice about something or other. Everything happens in One Elmwood. And it has a rooftop bit here, which is quite nice, and loads of seating and social areas for students to mill around. So I think we'll probably be keeping the summer school students very busy. There's a very empty picture of the bar, which is nice. And we've got to the questions. Wow, I did rattle through that quite quickly. But there we go. I'm going to stop there and then invite you to ask us questions. Myself and Emma will endeavour to respond as best we can. So any questions? Chat again.
What is the application process like, and when would those be due?
So I'll take that, Philip, if you're okay with that. Applications are due to open in November, and they do close at the end of March. So the students, so depending on whether you're sending a group or students are coming independently, if you're promoting the summer school to your students to apply directly, there's an application form online that they'll need to complete. It's not very comprehensive, if I'm honest. We just really ask them a few questions about themselves and ask them to upload their transcripts and information on sort of passports and things like that. We ask them just to let us know why they want to come to the summer school. And that's kind of the process that we go through for direct applications. And then we ask the direct applications for a small deposit as well, just to secure them into their programme. If you're planning to send a group, the way we can do it is we'll provide you with an Excel document for you to complete with all of the student details of all the students that you're sending to us. And again, end of March is the closing date for those. But I do believe most US institutions then maybe close January, February. So hopefully March is a suitable date for you.
Yeah, and just on that, for the Fulbright applications, they close in February. So I think, if your students are thinking of coming, then, probably the earlier that they apply in the November before the Christmas holiday break, that might be the time to think about applying so that then they're in time to put themselves into the frame for Fulbright as well.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
So I have a question too. Can you hear me? I want to make sure my mic's working.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We got
So
you.
great presentation. Thanks so much. Just a question for, two questions actually. For if a student applies for Fulbright and doesn't get it, can they still try it on their own?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, if they don't get Fulbright, they're absolutely welcome to, I'm afraid, pay their own way.
Exactly. If they do it that way, that's fine too. And then the second thing is, if we did have if a group goes, and I would say, I'm not sure how, if that would be possible, but when you're talking about a group going, is that billed by group, or is that, would individual students pay then still on their own, but they could get that 10% discount if there were 10 coming from one university?
I think it really depends on your preference. So if the institution wants to charge the students to go to the summer school and pay an invoice at the end, some groups like to organise buses and things from the airport for the students, maybe, and organising them to all fly together. Because obviously the fee doesn't include their flights from the US to Belfast. So sometimes institutions include flights and transport in a group price, and then we'll invoice for just the fee for our summer school. And then we'll be able to support and book the bus and things like that for you and invoice for that too. Or we have institutions this year that are sending groups, but they sent us the student details and asked the students to apply directly and pay for themselves. So we're very flexible. It's completely what works for you.
Yeah, and Chris, another thing on that, just Emma mentioned that some of the groups that we're talking to and welcoming this year, as well as talking to for next year, are coming for a kind of hybrid version. So they're taking some of our summer school. They're maybe doing the first week or the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but they're also doing a week of their own as well. They're building it into a wider experience. Our summer school, yeah, because this summer school is not credit bearing as it stands within its own 3 weeks, but it's arranged so that partners can get their students to take it for credit by adding on extra bits of their own teaching, bringing an academic over with the group. And one of the things, like Emma, I know, has been up the walls dealing with some of our colleagues, but it's fine. But sort of making separate arrangements for different groups because they want to come a week before, or they may want to stay a week behind or 2 weeks after. So we are totally flexible on that as well.
Okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any of
Hi.
them? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi thank you so much for the presentation. So I also have a question regarding like the hybrid nature of having part of it be something on our own with our university and then taking the summer school as well. For the part that would be like on our own, would you be able to arrange accommodation at Queen's at all? Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it really depends when you want to come, Sydney.
Mhm.
You know, our home students will all move out of their accommodation by the 15th of June, which is the Saturday of next year. So before that date, it's probably a little bit tricky, but then
Mhm.
after the summer school and into July, then it's much easier for us to make those arrangements. And we also help, we can help you with accommodation in terms of teaching spaces, suggestions for restaurants, where people might go for day trips, put you in touch with, local whatever it might be that your students are interested in, whether it's arts and culture institutions or whether it's, NGOs or charities or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
Like Philip
So-
has said, Sydney, we can organise the teaching space and things for you. I'm also organising library access for people that are staying additional times and Wi-Fi and logins and all that stuff. So we can make sure that your students have full access to everything if you're staying a little bit longer too.
Okay, that's good to know that it will work more smoothly if that part of the program would be following the summer school. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
Philip and I were actually discussing that earlier, and in my personal opinion, I think it's great that everyone arrives together. So yes, we're limited with availability and accommodation, but it might also work in our favour ever so slightly, because the students will all start on the same day. Everyone will receive the same induction, the same tours, rather than maybe arriving a week earlier and then receiving separate tours and things like that. And then this is what's happening to a group this year. They're arriving a week early, doing the tours, and then on the first day of summer school, they're opting out of those tours, which means they're having extra free time. So I do think it's great if everyone arrives together and then extends and stays a week or two after.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see a question in the chat. So if the program is not credit bearing on its own, from Alex. Yeah, so that's one thing that we've been looking at. It used to be credit bearing and it used to be 4 weeks long, but with different partners sending different cohorts of students, they needed different kinds of assessments. And that then made it quite complicated for us to be able to work out, well, how do we do this? It also meant that we had to, the fees were higher because we had to get staff to do assessment in the summertime. So over conversations over the last couple of years, as we've rethought the summer school, partner institutions, so like UNC Chapel Hill or Berkeley, have been looking at models that allow them to oversee the assessment on return home. So, I'm thinking in terms of my module story, students will be able to take back a sort of digital output. It might be, rushes for a film, or it might be photography, it might be a song, or it might be a podcast. It's something that they can take back to their home institution and use for credit. Now, that will require myself and Emma to have sort of bespoke one-to-one conversations with each partner and go, well, what is it that you need as a base for the 3 weeks? Are you going to add on an extra week here in Belfast, or is it something that could contribute to credit back in a home institution? Some partners, allow their students to take it for 3 credits, some for 5, some for 6. And so there's no one size fits all, and we are open to having conversations with making it as workable and viable as possible for you. No worries.
Any other questions? In the meantime, I'll pop in the link to the 2024 summer school website. So Philip has went through all the programs, but this will also give you insight into the learning outcomes and things that Philip had mentioned. Just if you want to share this with any student, you can do.
I suppose one of the things as we relaunch this year, I think the 2023 summer school will be interesting to see quite how the different groups connect and interconnect, and what different partners are thinking of in terms of whether they are pushing for credit or not for credit. And then we'll take that and we'll think about it, but we'll not be making any massive changes for 2024, I would imagine, because it does seem pretty popular as is. But like I said, if there are certain things that you'd like us to consider or to mull over or to talk about as we develop and evolve the summer school after 24 into 25 and 26, we are all ears and very happy to talk to you to tailor it to suit your student needs. Link is in the chat, so hopefully that's all clear. Is Chris coming back in there? Or? Yeah. No other thoughts or queries?
I'll pop the summer school email address in here as well, just so you have it handy.
Keep thinking.
If anyone has any questions around the summer school or wants to have a chat about it privately, maybe about sending a group with specific requirements, feel free to pop me an email and I can set that up for you next week. or maybe not the following week because it's the start of the 23 summer school, but maybe the week after that. Yeah, would be happy to have a conversation with you around sending some students, whether it's group or just a handful of students as well.
Cool. Great.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Sydney.
Well, I think that's us, Philip. Thank you very much for providing all the information. The fact that there was very little questions must show how comprehensive your presentation was.
Given that you put the presentation together,
You weren't supposed to say
I
that.
just read the screen.
That's great. Well, it's lovely to meet everyone. And please do get in touch if you have any questions.
Okay. Well, I wish you all well and take
All
care.
right. Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Bye.
I think that's us.
That's us. Yeah.
Well, Philip, thanks so much.
Thank you, Emma.
See you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye.